So on the menu today is some homemade cheesy ravioli. We're gonna be making the pasta to build the ravioli and the filling. Now this filling is gonna be simple, but it's gonna have a lot of great flavor in it. The first thing we need to do is really break down some basil leaves here. I have, I don't know, maybe 7, 8, 9 basil leaves. We're gonna chop these all up really, really fine. Wanna get them into small pieces. Let's get everybody stacked together here. Roll everybody up, and we're gonna just start chopping. Once we have the pieces like this, chop. That's looking good. Let's get this mixed with our other ingredients. So I have about a cup of ricotta cheese here. To this, I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of minced garlic. Then we're gonna add our basil we chopped up. And I want to add a really good pinch of kosher salt. This might be like, I don't know, a quarter teaspoon. We're going to mix this all up. Let's get a little taste here, see if we need to adjust. Oh, that's really nice. Now you may be wondering, why aren't you adding any Parmesan cheese or other cheese to this? Especially if it's a really cheesy ravioli. Well, we are gonna have some mozzarella in the filling, but it's not gonna go in this part of it. And the Parmesan is gonna go on the outside at the end. So I'm gonna cover this and we're gonna move on to making our pasta. So I have my stand mixer out here and I'm using this to make the pasta dough because I'm gonna be using this later with an attachment to roll it out. You can make pasta dough the traditional way with just making a mound of flour, adding the eggs there, mixing it in. But this makes it easier, and when you have bad shoulder, like I do, this takes away some of that work so you don't have to do so much kneading by hand. So in my mixing bowl here, I have 3½ cups of all-purpose flour. I'm gonna add ½ a teaspoon of kosher salt, 4 large eggs, and a couple tablespoons of water. We can add more water, more flour as necessary. I've got the flat beater attachment in here and we're going to use that for about a minute or so, then we'll switch to the dough hook. Get our beater off of here. Scrape off all you can. Get our dough hook on. And we're going to go for a couple minutes here on speed 2. And I'm going to add another tablespoon or 2 of water here. It's looking a little dry. Now I do need to knead this by hand for a few minutes. I just want to work this together and get all that loose flour incorporated. You can see how our dough ball is picking up all those loose bits of flour. I'm gonna wrap this in plastic wrap and it's gonna rest for about 25-30 minutes just to let that gluten sort of take a break. See you back here in about ½ an hour. So here is our dough ball and we're gonna separate this into 4 sections now. And the sections that are not being used at the moment are gonna go on that tray that's behind me on the counter that has a damp towel on it. That'll just keep those pieces from drying out while we work with each individual one. So I just wanna kind of work this into, I don't know, a rectangle, a log, anything that'll allow me to get a pretty good division here, because I want 4 roughly equal pieces. Let's see, that's about half, another half, another half. That's rough. All right, we'll work with this piece first, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the others on that tray. So I wanna hit this with a little bit of flour here, and I wanna flatten it out into sort of a longish rectangle before we get it into the pasta roller. And I'm gonna take this down to almost the thinnest setting on my pasta roller. You always start at the widest and you work your way down. little more flour on here, flour on the roller. You use a lot of flour doing this. All right, let's fire up the pasta roller. And we're gonna fold it over, go back through. Then I'm gonna decrease the thickness, add a little more flour. You can see this is getting a little wide here. Just go ahead and separate it into 2 pieces. Fold this over again. Go down again. Go down again. So this is what I'm looking for. I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of our sheets so we can make our ravioli. So do I have any flour on me? There's flour everywhere. I cleaned that up, and now it's time to start building our ravioli. I have one of the sheets of our pasta here. And one thing I want to mention is you can make pasta any way you want. This is just the way that I made it. You might have a different recipe, or you might find a different recipe. Use what works best for you. So I'm going to be making these raviolis about this size. That's why I have this cutter here. So as long as your sheet is as big as the cutter you're using, or whatever tool you're using, that's fine. And I have my ricotta mixture in a little Ziploc bag here that I snipped off the corner from. So we're going to use this to pipe it on. You want to make sure you give enough room. We're going to lay another sheet on top of this. There will be some that's lost, but you could always roll that back out and make regular pasta. So we're just gonna put a good dollop there. Good dollop there. See if we can fit one more maybe. And then on each of these, I'm gonna put a little piece of mozzarella. This is fresh mozzarella. Now I have a little bit of an egg wash, which is a beaten egg, a little bit of water, and I just want to go around the outside of all of these so that when we put our other sheet of pasta on, there'll be a little bit of, natural glue to help seal it. So just kind of around the outside here. This is an optional step. You could even just use water, but I find using a beaten egg with a little bit of water in it works pretty well. Got our other sheet of pasta here. And then we're just going to start pressing it down and trying to work the air out of the edges before we do a full seal on it. So press down between your mounds of filling here, just so we get individual little packages before we cut them. Work that air out. A little bit of air in there is not going to hurt anything. If you get a little poppage, it's not going to be the end of the world. Now we're going to take our cutter, and the cutter has been dipped in flour, so it'll help it pull away. See, the edges have been covered in flour. Go to the next one. Next one. And just peel your pieces away here. If you need to use a knife to get any stubborn edges, go ahead. Again, this right here, roll it back up. You could put it in the refrigerator for a while, make some other pasta out of it, some spaghetti, some linguine, whatever you want. Now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take these individual ravioli and I'm gonna go around the edges with a fork. Now they make tools that do this, and if you have one of those, feel free to use it, but this works pretty well too. Also helps seal this, gives it a nice look. And you see we got a little cheese squeeze right there. Don't worry about it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Let's do another one. A little more cheese squeeze. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of our ravioli filled, and then we will boil these up, because after we boil them, they're gonna go in the oven sprinkled with Parmesan cheese and bake to finish. My water is boiling. I want to give it some salt. Get our ravioli in here. They're going to go for 2 to 3 minutes. And we don't want to stir these aggressively. You just want to kind of let them do their thing. When you take them out, you want to take them out gently. I'm actually going to put mine on a wire rack to drain for a moment before I transfer them to the baking sheet we're going to use. And right about now, your oven should be preheating to 425 degrees. All right, that is good. I'm going to start getting these out of here, letting them drain for a minute before we move on to baking them. So I have my baking sheet out here, and I want to get a little olive oil on here. Just rub that all around. Get our ravioli on here. I want to hit these with some shaved Parmesan. And of course, the tray is going to get some. It'll taste good too. Want a good amount on here. All right, this is going in the oven until all that cheese is melted. We got some nice little golden brown on it. In my oven, that's probably about 15 to 20 minutes, but every oven's different, so you just got to kind of watch it. So let's get this in and get it baked up. And there is our ravioli. Now you could certainly just boil it and eat it like that traditionally, but I just love sometimes throwing it in the oven, getting an extra little crisp, sometimes even in a pan with some olive oil to fry it up. So let's go ahead and plate this up and have a taste. I'm just going to start layering our ravioli on here. Oh, just look at that nice little crispiness on the bottom. It's a good amount right there, and a little bit more Parmesan on it. Let's get a couple basil leaves on here for some color. And there we go. Homemade ravioli, filled with cheese, sprinkled with cheese, boiled and baked. This is going to be delicious. Now, one of the fun things about this is if you want to, and they're not too hot at the time, you can pick them up and just take a bite. I love that mix of ricotta and mozzarella in there, and that Parmesan on the outside with its saltiness and the way it gets crispy in the heat there, fantastic. You could sauce these, you could put a little bit of olive oil on them, you could put some chopped tomatoes on them, you could do anything, or just like this, maybe a little extra cheese, whatever you decide to add, it's just gonna make it taste even better.